Welcome, everybody, to a Cup of Ray on a Sunday morning down here just in back of me is Tropicana Field, where the Rays are going to try to make it three in a row against those New York Metropolitans today. Game time just after 1 o'clock. Of course, I'm down here in the Ferg's backyard down here at the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, which is down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge District of St. Petersburg. How are you all doing on a Sunday morning? First of all, let me welcome to first of all, I hope yesterday the 4th was with you. Of course, today's Cinco de Mayo, but I want to go ahead and let you all know right off the top of the show here, you are marked free in a zone, marked free from any Kendrick Lamar and Drake smack. I just got the full course update on the way down here with my son Tristan. Of course, he drove us down. He's currently up there in the clubhouse, if you will, the Ferg's clubhouse with the virtual golf simulators, working on his golf swing on a Sunday morning as we're getting ready for just all kinds of sports down here at Ferg's. And isn't that the way it is with down here at Ferg's? And, Lightning get bumped from the playoffs. Of course, playoffs, they lose to the Florida Panthers, those stinking Panthers, okay? It's not always going to be every time it's dropping. The Rays didn't have a start to the season like they did in 2023, didn't win those first 13 games in a row, didn't come in with an offense that Rays fans had never seen before, but they're starting to find it. And we marked it right from the very beginning. We said, okay, Drew Rasmussen, Jeffrey Springs, Sugar Shane's going to be back next season. We've probably got, on paper, we've got the best pitching rotation still, I believe, in the entire Major League Baseball, but we're getting guys back. Suddenly, we've got some young guys stepping up. Kevin Cash is still playing the analytics, but of course, thanks to Peter Blake from the Sports Web, whose page I'm on this morning, bringing it to our attention that, of course, Kevin Cash passes Joe Madden in all-time wins as the manager of the Rays. And it got me thinking a couple of weeks ago when we were first talking about the body of work that Kevin Cash has done here. First of all, let me go ahead and let you know the comments here, anything y'all want to talk about. It doesn't have to be sports related. It can be Sunday morning related, weekend related, what's going on in your life. I'm just breaking it down because, of course, we had the draft last weekend. I love the picks that Jason Light and the Buccaneers picked and brought in here to refortify this team to continue to be the dominant team in the NFC South. The Rays starting to bring it back. The Rowdies are still locking it down just down the road here over at the Yao Lang Stadium, if you will, Rowdy Stadium. And, of course, the Lightning get bumped. I don't watch a lot of hockey once the Lightning get bumped. I really love hockey. Used to go back to the 80s when it was the Rangers and the Islanders, and ESPN was an upstart television station. And I'll tell you what, when I first got introduced, and of course my family being from Staten Island, big Rangers fans, but we also had a subset of Long Island fans that were in the family, and they were Islanders fans. So I grew up understanding the rivalry between the Rangers and the Islanders. Of course, start talking about back in the mid 90s, it's like, this is beautiful down here. This is Tampa Bay. It's Florida. Why wouldn't we want a hockey? Hockey will never work in Florida. Hockey will never work down south. Of course, back then, hockey was still predominantly, Detroit and North, being a Canadian, and of course the Russians and what hockey was before then. And Phil Esposito steps up, the Hall of Famer, and still one of the best, not only I don't want to say he's the ambassador for NHL hockey. He's the ambassador for all of hockey, but especially here in Tampa Bay, how lucky I am to still know and be able to call Phil Esposito a friend. But what he meant to bringing hockey to the Tampa Bay area, just exciting stuff. But Lightning get bounced out. And all of a sudden, because, you can say it. We saw it 2 years ago, and, of course, we brought Duclair in here late in the season. He was a great addition to this Lightning team, and last time we really saw him, didn't really see him much in his San Jose out there when he was playing with the Sharks, but when he was with the Panthers 2 years ago, and the Lightning and the Panthers were going at it. Suddenly, this was because the Marlins and the Rays, it still hasn't taken off, right? The only thing the Marlins and the Rays seem to have in common is the fact that the Marlins built a huge stadium down there and did it wrong, did it in the wrong area. They got a subpar product. Derek Jeter never really got it working down there. We're leaps and bounds ahead of them. And don't forget about this, going back to when Major League Baseball, we were supposed to get that team. It was going to be our team. And Wayne Huizenga, he of the Waste Management, he of Blockbuster Video. How many of y'all out there may not even know about Blockbuster Video, or maybe you've seen videos, or maybe you were knee-high to a grasshopper, just a wee little Tampa Bay sports fan back when we used to rent those videos. But then all of a sudden, Major League Baseball flips it over and gives it to Wayne Huizenga, and they get the Miami Marlins or Florida Marlins. 98, we finally get team, of course, Vince Namoli and the team ownership that was here in Tampa Bay area. We get the Rays, the Devil Rays, right off the bat even, the Devil Rays. I'm just going into Oh, thank you, Tim, for pulling me off. I had no idea where I was going with that. But how are you doing today, Tim? Tim Haynes, my first message in here this morning. Good morning, Ray. Good morning, Tim. I can always count on you. How you doing, brother? So you got the F1 down in Miami. You had the run for the roses yesterday in the Kentucky Derby, which is huge. And, of course, you had May the 4th be with you. And today is Sunday, Cinco de Mayo, which is why it's going to be banging down here at the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge District of St. Petersburg. But across the street, again, as I already stated, the Rays, they're wearing the Connect jerseys. They win Friday night. They win Saturday night. I got my Mets hat, brought it out here. No, I really don't wear it. Grew up a Mets fan, born in Staten Island, the entire family. Got a true story. Grandpa used to bring the entire family down here every year to Port St. Lucie to watch the Mets train. It was 1970. My mom, of course, had me in 69. Yeah, I gave my age at the top of the show. Anyone else, any more comments, anything you want to talk about on Cinco de Mayo, I'm game for it. Even if you want to do it in an Espanol, I'll give it a try. 1970, we come down here. My mom is pregnant with my sister. Year and a half after I'm born, we're down here in Port St. Lucie, and I'm just this little, I think I was more round than tall, a little baby in a carriage. And Tom Seaver, and of course that was 69, Mets win the World Series. Tom Seaver and Tug McGraw signing autographs there at the end of practice in Port St. Lucie, and my mom had brought me around, and she brought me around with the carriage, and she was just kind of like fans do back then, a little bit different than what it is today. You had a little more access. Tim, I appreciate you. Anything else you want to talk about, please bring it in here. Had a little more access to the players, and Tom Seaver had just signed a bunch of autographs, and all he did was he went to turn, and as he turned, he didn't see my mother, who was very much pregnant. Shout out to you, Mom. I'll see you today. She's in the hospital having a little health issue, but hopefully we got her on the road to perdition. I think we do, thanks to the fine staff over at the Largo Medical Center and Largo Hospital. Tom Seaver goes to break away because he's done signing autographs, didn't see my mom, and knocked her down. Fortunately, everything's fine. My sister, I just spent all day with her yesterday. We were up there in Dunedin afterwards, had a little beer up there at the Woodwrights and had a good time. If you're not doing it down there up in Dunedin or in the Dunedin area, make sure you stop by Woodwrights. Tell them Couple Ray did a shout out. Maybe they'll throw me something next time I'm in there. Probably not. They don't even know who I am. But knocks my mom. Tom Seaver just, here's a very, very pregnant woman, and she's got a baby in the carriage. My dad's right there, probably laughing at it, knowing my dad in the way he was. Tom Seaver feeling bad. Picks me up, brings me in, gets a picture, brings me right in, and Tug McGraw hops in. So basically, I've got a picture of almost a little under a year old me with Tom Seaver, Tug McGraw. The Mets were, none of that matters now. In 2024, of course, it's our Tampa Bay Rays going for the sweep today, which is only one of the minuscule reasons why. And again, I'm out here in the back Ferg's backyard and back of Ferg's. Son's up there playing a little virtual golf. First Avenue South right behind me. There's all kinds of buzzing going on over there because, for a 1 o'clock game, Rays personnel, Randy Hammond, shout out to you, my friend, already in there, getting it ready, getting the seats. Everything's all putting everything on ice, getting the food prepared. Everything's happening over here. There's a buzz on the floor, and it's because you got a Major League Baseball team, Major League Baseball game, Florida Rays, Tampa Bay Rays, not the St. Petersburg Rays. Let's talk about that. Anybody have a comment about that? I was talking to Coach this morning, and that's one of the things. I love it. You can set your watch by it down here at the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. Tristan and I are heading down. I'm like, where do you want to do a show? I'm going to go downtown this morning. I said, let's go to Ferg's. I'd love to do Tropicana Field right in back of me. It's an iconic shot, and it's going to be even more iconic when they build the new stadium just about over there to the southwest side of the parking lot, and they do all the redevelopment of that area. And, of course, that's going to go in line with everything that's happening with the redevelopment down here in St. Petersburg, which is going to go hand in hand with the redevelopment that's happening in all of Pinellas County, which goes hand in hand with the redevelopment, all the building that's going on in Tampa. West Central Florida, surprise, surprise, the best area of Florida to be in, and I appreciate that. But going back to where was I going with that? Going back to all the sports that are on today. And you throw in Cinco de Mayo, and I'm like, we just had the Masters a couple of weeks ago, the NFL draft. And, things worked out because I'm thinking about the sports we have up here, the Kentucky Derby yesterday. Of course, the last weekend in May, we have the Indianapolis 500, which coincides with Memorial Day. And then we go back and we just had March Madness. And used to be maybe most of us followed individual sports. Maybe it was a football. And for me, it was always football with the Buccaneers. And then, of course, it was the Lightning and, of course, the Storm and then the Rays and all of these, Tampa Bay got all these teams. But we always started making a joke, and it's not even a joke anymore. I still mention it because every year we're reminded that there really is no more offseason. Just like there's no offseason for Tristan and all of his compatriots, the Warriors, that one tribe over at Osceola, getting ready for this Friday night is the Blue-Orange game, and then next week they have their spring game. All of the Pinellas County high schools are getting ready for that spring game. Tristan's team also, I love it. Tim, when does the NFL schedule come out? This week, right? So I think it's the end of this week. It's not tomorrow, but it is this week. And I know that because I went ahead and filled out, we knew all the home games. We knew all the away games. We knew the opponents the Buccaneers were facing in 2024, but they had the contest to fill out the 2024 schedule. So you take into account, you got the Ravens and we got all these teams that are playing here on the road. And let me ask you this, Tim. As we're preparing, we've seen this now. The NFL has done a pretty good job, and in the last couple of years, it really hasn't applied in the South for any of the teams in the South. Of course, for the Bucks, because we've kind of had to wipe our feet. Last year, it got a little close toward the end there, but we were able to lock up the South for the third consecutive year. But all these teams, all these schedules, they got the 17th game, soon to be 18, standby. But you got these. But it always seems that the last 3 to 5 weeks, you've got at least 3 or 4 divisional games. And if the NFL does their homework right, if those schedule makers, they take so much into account when making the schedules. Strength of schedule, common opponents, last year's teams, first place, second place, third place schedule. What's the rest of your division like? So, and this is where Alec, I had you up there already. Alex Schomburg comes in. Alec, wrong comment. Alec, haven't seen you in a minute. Hey, Ray, we drafted my guy, Bucky Irving, go Ducks. And what's funny is because we talk about Bucky Irving, the running back, and the first thing I had heard, because I didn't actually see the selection made, they're like, well, we got this huge running back. But then I went back and looked at Bucky. Dog, Alec, and I know you're an Oregon Ducks fan. You're a huge Oregon Ducks fan. I'm glad we got your boy in the backfield here, but does kind of fit right in with exactly the type of running backs the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have. Blocking type of receiving running back, shifty runner, get him to that second level, which some would pose was one of the problems with Rachaad White in last preseason, because we understand we get these running backs to the second level, and then it's on. It's on like Donkey Kong, not only because you've got the best receiving core in the National Football League and you've got a good tight end, but now you got those dogs up front as you add a fantastic – where's Barton going to play, right? Graham Barton. I wanted to ask you guys and girls, this is one of the reasons why I had to do a show today. It's been a couple of weeks. I've been a little busy, always ready to do a show and an excuse to come down here. I'm trying to get some tickets for the game here against the Mets today. But what are the Bucks going to? What's Jason Light going to do? Is he going to drop out of that pick late in the first round? He's going to stay there. Brings in Graham Barton, just a dog of an offensive lineman, right? Plays virtually, and it seems to be a recurring theme, probably with a lot of teams, but especially with Jason Light teams, is that you've got an offensive lineman that comes in here that has the ability to play multiple positions on the offensive line, which not only, number one, and down the road is going to help you as you have to possibly, prepare for an Ali Marpet retirement or for I'm just kidding, but as you look to reassemble this line, always being able to put it together. But Barton fits the MO of exactly what an offensive lineman for Jason Light and the Buccaneers these days is. Multiple positions, great temperament, but great, I don't want to say purebred, purebred, because it reminds me of the old underdog, but just the kind of offensive lineman and a player you want to have, because you've got a team that's strong. It's led by veterans, not so much boisterous veterans, but led by veterans at all the positions. You got your, I'm going to say you got your Mike Evans, you got your Levante Davids, you got your Tristan Wirfs, you've got your Vita Vea, which Vita Vea coming in a little bit lighter. What does that look like for the rest of the National Football League and the NFC South in 2024? But you got a team that's led by a bunch of good character people. One of Jason Light's, that's my Sunday question. I'll pose it right now. What is the number one thing Jason Light, as Bucks fans that we've seen now since 2014, going on our 11th year, what's the number one thing that Jason Light seems to look for when he looks for? Could be skill set, obviously need, temperament, the type of player they are, what kind of system they come from. We took players from Georgia, Alabama, course, we got your running back there from Oregon. We also dipped into UTEP, got another offensive lineman. But it seems like they're all strong characters that Jason Light drafts. And that, my friends, may be one of the reasons why you automatically start with a baseline that gives you the potential for success. And now you sprinkle in the rest of this team, the rest of these players, or in 2020, you get a Tom Brady, or in 2023, you get a Baker Mayfield. Now you can add pieces to that team. And that's probably been one of the most exciting things, Bucs fans, as Jason Light is your general manager, now the best general manager at this point in Buccaneers history, without a shadow of a doubt, continues to make that argument on the daily. But now you got a team that can interchangeable pieces. You still have your core veterans, but you have a team that you can add a couple of pieces here and there, and it's not like you're completely taking a chance of losing the locker room. Good locker room team. But what is your number one thing that you seem to think Jason Light looks for as he drafts players or brings in free agents to add to your Buccaneers team? Alec also says, I'm getting his jersey immediately. Brother, is he going to wear number 0? Is 0 even a number I think they can wear at the NFL level? Is he going to still wear 0, Alec? Have you heard anything about that? I didn't see the number on him. I did see they had the numbers come out for the players. Tim Haynes says, yeah, it's been a minute since we've seen you on Sunday morning. Tim, thank you so much. It's like you literally would think Tim and I have a pre-production meeting every time. That was the genesis, if you will, of Cup of Ray. Because everybody's like, Cup of Ray. The first thing, I'll be out here on the sidewalk in front of the world-famous Fergs, or downtown, or over in Tampa, over at Raymond James Stadium doing a show. Somebody always comes along and they say, what are you doing? I go, I'm talking sport. What's the name of the show? Cup of Ray. And then everybody kind of always goes, huh. But the moment I say, well, the Cup of Ray, it's an excuse, or if you will, it's an opportunity to just speak from the hip. What are you feeling on a Sunday? But more importantly, what you guys and girls are thinking on a Sunday, bringing it back to me. And yes, it was always Sunday morning. The reason why Cup of Ray was always on Sunday mornings, preferably at 9 o'clock, got a few minutes early today, is because growing up, it was always 9 o'clock Sunday mornings from September, basically through December. It wasn't a whole lot of January football back then. Heading across at Howard Franklin, reading a Sunday paper, reading Gary Shelton. What did Hubert Mizell have to say? Whoa, we got the Tampa Tribune. What's Tom Banks saying over here? What's Ira Call? So we're rolling across, getting excited for the 1 o'clock games. And we've already said this, guys and girls, the Bucs always played at 1 o'clock. Oh, okay. I'm going to get to that in a minute, Alec. And going over the excitement, getting the Coleman grills, Uncle Sonny with the Coleman grills starting, the bacon frying, the eggs, the pre-made potatoes we had at home, so they're nice. And we did the breakfast and beer, which, okay, I wasn't drinking, I was young, but that was the time. That was the most exciting. It seems like Sunday mornings around 9 o'clock is when sports fans of any ilk and from any place, it seems like you have the world in the oyster. The world is your oyster, because is your team going to win or lose? Is your team even playing? Is your team being... So Sunday mornings, Cup of Ray, an excuse to sit back, shoot the breeze, and that's where Cup of Ray started. So, Tim, yeah, it's been a minute since I've been on at 9 o'clock. Been starting to do them later. Wait till you see the next iteration of Cup of Ray. I got the soundboards, the microphones. Everyone's been asking me. They want me to do an interview show. They want me to see me up beating down the streets of Tampa Bay and having conversations with you guys and girls, and you guys having conversation with me, and that's what's going to be happening. But, yeah, Cup of Ray, the OG Cup of Ray, always going to be on Sunday mornings like this as we're getting ready for Cinco de Mayo, as we're getting ready for the Rays to take Game 3. They've got the series, but let's make it a sweep over the Mets across the street there at Tropicana Field. Getting ready for Bucs, rookie OTAs and mandatory rookie camps. Get a look at our new players first. So, yes, Cup of Ray will always be initially the OG Cup of Ray Sunday mornings. Tim, thanks for asking. Tim says he needs to look for guys that love football. Bingo. And that's probably something they all have in common. And you all are thinking, well, they've been playing all their lives. They're professionals now, and they're going to get paid. Yeah, but I mean, there's a difference between approaching it as a job and loving football. And I'm telling you, who wasn't? So I'm getting older, right? Tears in my eyes when I first got the bite. First get the Buccaneers post the picture when Graham Barton first gets over to One Buccaneer Place, the Advent Health Training Facility, One Buccaneer Place, and Tristan Wirfs comes out of he's just working out, comes out, and he's talking, and he's asking him, when'd you get in, and this and that, and it was, what was today? Oh, yeah, working out, did arms today. It was Friday Arms Day. Graham pops in with Big Arm Friday, and Tristan's like, yeah, Big Arm Friday. That's the love of the game. Not just that the players are over there at the facility training, getting ready, doing their lifts, getting their workouts in, seeing the trainers, making sure they got any little issues to work out, but doing it because they love it. And one of the reasons used to make us as Tampa Bay sports fans back in the 70s or 80s, I should say, tear our hair out, if you will, is because we knew we had this is Tampa Bay. This is beaches, bay, boats, Fergs, downtown. Sun comes up over the $90 million pier. Sun's going to go down over the $90 billion beaches. The sun runner. Why wouldn't you want to come here? And the truth is, people do want to come here. People will still retire to come here. People still come here on vacation. It is still a vacation destination, even as the rest of the countries continue to make upgrades to make themselves vacation destinations in their own rights. Tampa Bay was always a place, and it wasn't just that we lived here. And, you know, some people, you might be living in Poughkeepsie or living in Indiana. You're like, why would anyone not want to live here? Everybody's got a love for their hometowns. Everyone's got a reason they could tell you why in a certain time of year. Why, but Tampa Bay, and we always had it. Of course, in the 80s, when Hugh Culverhouse was shortchanging the money, taking the television revenues out the front and giving Phil Kruger and the rest of the staff over at the old trailer, what used to be One Buck Place, just off of the back runway there at Tampa International Airport, we were getting the retirees. Even in the draft in '75, when they're putting a team together, back then, teams didn't have to tell you if a player was injured or not. There wasn't any databases. There weren't any computers. There weren't even pagers. I mean, there were landlines, but it was a very nefarious type of activity going on there when the Seahawks and the Bucks were building their teams. We ended up getting a bunch of guys who were injured, not going to get better, long in the tooth. Teams were allowed to protect all their superstars, and that's why it became exponentially hard, Leo word, exponentially, to build these teams. And then go back, fast forward to when the Panthers came into the league or when the Jaguars came into the league, and now you had competitively based franchise drafts, so teams were allowed to protect certain players but then pull back others, and as you got one player drafted, you were allowed to pull another one back. They still made it fair for teams to retain their players, if you will, or their superstars, but it gave these franchises, these young upstart teams, a lot more opportunity to get some dogs. Plus you had real-time injury updates. You knew who was coming in. They still have to pay, even today they have to pass a physical. Kirk Cousins and the Falcons, whatever happened with that? I thought they were going to get punished. I'm kidding. But back then it was so different, but we still had this area, so we knew we had the kind of place. But you're seeing that now with Steven Stamkos and Brees Waugh, and they're over there now, and Steven wants to continue to stay here. You saw it with Mike Evans and his beautiful family as he signs that deal to stay here. And you find them, you're thinking, well, even if he'd have been living in, Jersey, we found a home here. No, I get that. But don't we here as Tampa Bay fans, don't we understand that when Mike Evans says that his beautiful wife and their kids and they found a home here, of course, his original OG home always be over there in Texas, but to have Mike Evans here and to hear Steven Stamkos say he wants to complete his career here as a member of the Lightning, still going to cost them, but this is, you have a boat, you have a house on Davis Island, or you're, renting a nice, beautiful condo. Got a guy sitting right here listening to me on the back of his condo here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. We got the area for it. We always did. All we needed was some competent professional sports organizations like the Rays, like Jeffrey Vinnick and the Lightning, like the Rowdies and the Rays with the Rowdies, and of course like your Buccaneers and the Glazier family. I love that. Something I hadn't seen before. Let me get to the rest of these comments because it's all about, this is what I wanted to read. Alex says he's wearing number 7. Right, so you got Shaq Barrett. Actually, Shaq never should have left 58. I did not like Shaq at number 7. And I'll tell you why. I'll finish this thought, the reason why. Shaq could have worn whatever number he wanted to play. He's still going to be a dog, but he comes from Colorado State. He gets to the Broncos. He's behind, working there. We bring him in here. Jason Light brings him in here as a free agent, and he 19 and a half sacks, and he comes in here and rocks and gets that huge contract, every penny of which was deserved. It just seemed like that was that was Shaq Barrett's MO. I'm here. I'm just going to put my nose to the grindstone. Got my Paul Gruber lunchbox. I'm here every day. And then something happened. Now, maybe he wore 7 in Little League. Maybe he wore 7. I don't know. Maybe one of y'all out there know a reason why Shaq chose number 7 to 58, but I didn't like him change to number 7. I don't like change just for the sake of change. But, of course, now Shaq's no longer with the Bucks. We're going to still see him this year. And what about Devin White as a Philadelphia Eagle? That, stay tuned, is going to be a thing. Is he wearing number 45 with the Eagles? We're going to see them again this year because of that first-place schedule. And that was going back to doing that schedule here. Tim, again, talking about the schedule when they're coming out this next week. my first game of the year, I wanted it to be the Bucks hosting the Eagles here at home, like redo of the. And of course, yeah, we rocked their world in the playoffs, and I don't expect it to be that easy again. Although I still think this Buccaneers team has every bit, and have added um, parts to this machine that can make this team run better. I didn't expect the same results we did in the playoffs there last year in the divisional playoff, but I was like, that should be. Of course, we know they're playing in Brazil. The Eagles are first week, so I took that right off the bat. I will tell you, my first game, I said, because I'm like looking the other way. Okay, new ownership, no more Daniel Snyder. They got Hal. They got Jaden Daniels from LSU, and they've got a new coach. And so I was like, Washington Commanders here at Raymond James Week 1. I don't know why. It wasn't that I'm hoping for it. I still think we should lock that down, even in the NFC East, which has gotten a little better, as much as an NFC South, which has gotten a little better. I did finish my last games with Panthers, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Saints, and then and flip-flopped them home, because that's the way. I have a feeling that those 4 teams, at least those 3, with the Saints, the Panthers, and the Bucks, or the Falcons, the Saints, and the Bucks, because you got Dave Canales and the Panthers and Bryce Young and the pieces they're getting. I think they're still a couple of years away. I could be completely wrong, but with the Bucks in their division, they're not going to have that chance. But I think that the Falcons now, you're going to find them with Raheem Morris and drafting Penix and Cousins. You guys aren't even talking about that. What were your thoughts when they just signed Kirk Cousins to a $150 gazillion deal, 72-year deal, and then they draft Michael Penix Jr.? And, of course, he's a Tampa Tech kid right from here in Tampa Bay. And a lot of us were even thinking, even as we got Baker Mayfield, and we still have the talent that is, I'm not going to say Kyle Trask, but we're like Penix as a development, maybe a second, or he wasn't going to make it a second round. Or maybe he wasn't going to. No, it wasn't going to happen, but we were like, that would be kind of nice to have a development quarterback. We got Baker for the next 3 to 5, maybe 7 years. Maybe Baker retires a buck in 2030. I don't know. I'm just saying. But then the Falcons bring in Penix after, and we're liking that. But don't forget, they still have Pitts. They still have Drake London. They still have Bijan Robinson. They still got a pretty good team. So they're starting to put the pieces together. Raheem Morris, I think if anybody was ready for the coaching cycle in 2024 to get back, remember the Bucks, we put him up there. The guy was like literally 13 years old, just gotten off the Binkies, and we had him head coaching the Buccaneers. And he didn't fail miserably. Just wasn't moving fast enough and didn't have the pieces that we were going to need at that point. He goes and gets 10 to 12 years. He's with Kyle Shanahan. Then he's with Sean McVay. He's an offensive coordinator. He's a defense. He started with a wide receivers coach, and he's just going all around the place. Of course, we know that Raheem Morris's strength was always in his defense, and now he's back and he's in our division. And then Dave Canales is the Buccaneers offensive coordinator in 2023. Now he's only 12 and a half, just got off the Binky, but now he's coaching those Carolina Panthers. And I tried to remember going back, and no, never have the Buccaneers, have we ever had within our same division. At one time, we've had 2 coaches in the league that were former, just off of Dungy staff alone, we had 17 coaches and head coaches in the league. But in our own division, to have our former OC from last season, and of course, Raheem Morris, a former head coach 100 years ago, and now they're in that same division. Even if you can't suddenly get to the fact that it's going to take a minute or 2 for some of these teams to get better, maybe, I think some prognostic, that's going to be the story, right? Going into 2024. The Buccaneers should have their 4th consistent. They got their franchise quarterback now. The greatest of all time leaving, didn't just leave him in despair in 2-15 and in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, but they're actually a decent team. Pardon me. Maybe it's time for a little more monster. And now you got Raheem, and you got Canales, and you've got Bryce Young, and you still have Dennis Allen. Now you got some narrative. So you're going to find, I think they're still going to try to say the NFC South is the worst division. We recovered a lot faster, and I don't think we ever got quite as bad as the NFC least. That was the worst division in the history of football from what I remember. Mike Stover says, bring on football. Mike, that's the attitude. That's what I'm talking about here. Oh, Mike says, I miss the old pier. And I'll tell you what, Mike, I was just out there last weekend. We drove it around the side got off by Straw Park, and Tristan and I walked around. We were throwing in the field by North Shore Pool, right? So we're on the other side of the Vinoy. But I did not know. I remember when they were talking about building this pier, and I was on board. I'm like, look, the upside down pyramid, it was always there my entire lifetime. Felt like it anyway. But now you're going to spend all this money on a pier, a destination, when St. Petersburg already was a destination. I was so wrong. Not only because I used it in my opening, because I realized right off the bat from the moment the pier was finished what that significant of a redevelopment, what the pier, and they not only, because remember the straight shot pier, and Mike, have you actually been to the new pier? I'm sure you have. Not only do you still have the straight shot, it goes out the same area, but they've widened it exponentially. They've got dock forwards, you've got a concert area, then you work out, you got the bar, you got the restaurants, it goes up, and you turn around, and now all of a sudden, as opposed to like 10 years ago when we were on the old it was $1 million pier originally, but when it was the upside down pyramid, you turn around, you go, oh, there's a 10-story building. Oh, there's that one condo. But now you get out to the pier and you turn around, and suddenly the entire downtown of St. Pete. And when you're out there in the evenings, you got the sun over off of the Gulf of Mexico. So it's a backdrop for all the buildings, and the lighting's beautiful. And man, it's almost like they planned it that way. Almost like in 1985 when Rick Dodge in the city of St. Petersburg built that like large big stadium across the street here, and they built it and they came, and how they planned for it. So in 2024, if this team, if the Rays, whoever owned them, were still in the city in 2027, they get half of the development rights of all of that, which not only does it run from over here where the pier, where the 16th Street, the other side of they built the stadium, Tropicana Field, which was the Pinella Suncoast Dome, which was the Thunderdome, but they built it right up against 16th. And of course, you see the bridge there, people walking across Booker Creek, but they left the entire big parking lot open, and even a couple of places with the U-Haul and stuff that are going to get developed, because you got other condos just going up on the other side where you got a lot of your USF Bayboro students living down here, enjoying all it is to be enjoyed of being a Tampa Bay resident and in the finest time of your life in college. But you got other things going up. And they said, Rick Dodge and the crew, they said, whoever's here in 2027, you stay here, you're here, you get half of the development. And then what Mayor Ken Welch has done and the city of St. Petersburg today is, and I love this because I wasn't planning on going here, but you guys and girls tell me, there's not a lot of appetite anymore. There's just no, in this day and age, people, it's funny because we've gotten to where we get all of our news clips. We get them in 30-second bites through X or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, and maybe it's light, maybe you're just watching reels and having a good time, but most people are getting their news, maybe it's slanted a little, maybe it's just the kind of news you want. Maybe it's just Cup of Ray here on the sports web, and that's all you need to get. I'll get you there, I promise. But there's not a lot of appetite to spend $1 billion to build stadiums anymore for owners whose teams are increasing exponentially faster than at any time. Who did somebody just offer? It was $10 billion? No, $6 billion for a team? I should have remembered. We were just reading about this the other day. And now that owner, you're talking about you want me to build, but with the redevelopment of Tropicana Field in the entire area, sure. If the Rays, if Stu Sternberg announced tomorrow that they're leaving, why would he? But if they announce tomorrow, hey, look, South Carolina they're going to give us half a mountain. They're going to build us a stadium in a valley. So we're moving. The city of St. Petersburg would make out entirely of all the redevelopment. It would alter slightly. I still think we're still going to get like some type of a convention center, because that's what one of the main things that new stadium is going to be. It's going to be a convention center and a place to come. Maybe you don't have to go all the way over to Tampa, all the way over to the 1-800 Ask Gary, whatever the name of that. You got your great concert going to see Dave Matthews there at the end of this month. Now you're going to have a 20,000 seat indoor stadium in the middle of the burg where you can have an indoor concert. True story. I'll get to the rest of the comments. I went to the first concert across the street there when it was the Pinella Suncoast Dome in 1986, and it was 1986, 88, and it was Billy Joel. First concert I went to in there, and the acoustics stunk. It was too concrete. They prepared for nothing, but it was still the first event inside the stadium. So yes, I was right down there, right on the stage for Billy Joel when that one opened. Tim Haynes says that was a joke, the way Tampa, Seattle were treated versus Jacksonville and Carolina. Yet talking about that franchise draft, talking about the way those teams back in the 70s, it was like, oh, you want to draft John Matuszak? He's injured. He's, I'm just using him as an example, or Lyle Alzado, because I was a big Raiders fan back in the day. But here, we're going to put all these studs that you guys have watched on the two networks with the one picture feed, because they only had one camera, and they had the little teller at the bottom. God, how the coverage of sports, especially football, has changed. Draft all the players you want. Here's 5 big names. They're all injured. They're all ready for retirement. In fact, 3 of them already told us we're not going to play. But here, Bucks, opportunity to draft them. We ended up bringing a bunch of guys in where it's still such a hard pool to search from. But if you go back and look at the players the Buccaneers originally pulled in here, if those guys were healthy, and they weren't near the end of their career or injured, we would have been a little bit more formidable of a team. But then again, you know, I talked about that to make the point about the franchise, but man, I would not trade worst to first in 1979. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was the first time I've ever stood among 72,000 people at the old Big Sombrero there at Tampa Stadium, and we were all with our, had our defensive red towels with the Dave Pear and Batman Woods and Mark Cotney, all the numbers on it, and Leroy and Dewey, and at any moment it felt like, even though the stadium was just because, remember back when it was University of Tampa played there, it was just the sidelines, and then they built the stadium, the middles in, they put the luxury box there above the west or eastern side, but it hadn't really. 1979 was the first time that I'd been inside of a stadium that we were rocking it so hard, celebrating so much to go from 0-26 and 76 and 77, getting our first victory against those Saints and Hank Stram on the road and come home and win the next week against the Cardinals. But in 1979, now you win the division and you're worst to first. Never been seen, at least from my lack of my sports history. I was only 7 at the time, or no, 10 in 79, but never had anyone seen a team. Number one, never had anyone seen a team as bad as those 1976, 77 Bucks to go 0-26, but then in 79, worst to first and have the best defense in the league. Wouldn't have traded it for the world. So I get it, and maybe the NFL with the drafts over time, they learned, like we all do. We learn as we go along. We make a few mistakes. You got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, but they learn that you got to make these teams a little more competitive, because I'll tell you what, if the Jacksonville Jaguars, like you said right there, were treated in Carolina the same way the Bucks and the Seahawks were treated back in 75 and 76, and the Panthers, they actually, second years they were in the NFC Championship game. So yeah, I love it. Trivia question: who was the Panthers quarterback when they made it to the NFC Championship game in their second year? Jake Delhomme. I don't know. Mike Stover says, I want the opener to be against the Saints. I like that, Mike. And I was also thinking that too, because, on the road or there, that would also be a way to go. Because remember, we played the Cowboys on the opener 2-3 years ago, and then the Cowboys the next year. And then, so you're like always in my head for some reason, I was thinking, but maybe that was because the NFC South was such a weak division. But now when you got a Saints improving team, or Raheem in Atlanta, or the narrative, maybe the schedules are all put together and they're like the Buccaneers, they won the South, they're going for a fourth, they won the divisional, they lost to the Lions. I'd like to go back and play that game again. The Lions, they were a team of destiny and may still be great competitive juices for the Bucs in 20. We play at Detroit again this year. Maybe they can put a South game in that week 1, because now you got it's the return of Dave Canales and Bryce Young, or maybe the Bucs go out there and take Dave on in his new home. Maybe it's not so nice for the Carolina fans, because they got to deal with the Buccaneers coming to town, or their team coming here to Tampa Bay. But anyway, Mike Stover also says, not really crazy about it. Primarily the lack of old staples such as Columbia Restaurant, DD Collectibles, and other stores. I love that too. I remember I had a Christmas party one year on the second floor there at the old Columbia. Loved it, Mike. Also loved it. It was more fishing, right? Because you knew you going out there. Remember, they always had the directional hut there when you walked out on it, so it was staged right, and there were all the pelicans. But every time you could go actually buy a can of fish and feed the pelicans, and then around the backside it was all the fishers, because it was the $1 million fishing pier, which is what it was originally. All of St. Petersburg and Pinellas County, and probably even some Tampa Bay, come over here and they fish off that pier. And nowadays they still have a little bit, and I bet you go out early on a Sunday here on Cinco de Mayo, you got your fishermen out there, but it's become more of a tourist type of a celebratory destination. And I think it's a great thing, because I love going out to the pier. I might just go halfway and sit on the grass berm and watch the sunset over the city of St. Petersburg, or maybe we're out there for a concert or something. But yeah, some of the emoji places, I miss some of that. And Mike, if you're like me, just sometimes I miss the way some of the old things were, which is why I also still love coming down here to the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. Remember when Coach first opened Hot Corner Pizza on the very corner of 16th and First South here, and that was all that was down here. And of course, we had the service station that Coach originally bought, and it was great, because I was talking with Tristan, and Coach and I were talking this morning, and Coach, of course, used to teach at Southside Fundamental, but everything here at Ferg's, come down here. We could do a tour just of the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, and I can show you how the wood over here, where they have the axe lanes set up for the axe throwing tournaments and axe throwing leagues are made of wood bleachers from one of our local high schools. And I can show you the way the wood up in Ferg's, the playhouse there, or the clubhouse where the virtual golf simulators are. And I would also mention, if you come down here to Ferg's, even if it's today for Cinco de Mayo to watch and you want to come down here because you got all the Rays fans and a couple of those Mets fans, but they're all getting ready. They all cross the street. You're out here watching the Rays game. Maybe you're catching the Magic playoff game, Game 7 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Maybe you're just out here enjoying a beautiful day in the Berg. Go inside the back coaches or the stairs up front there. Go up to the clubhouse. It's beautiful. It's air conditioned. There's TVs. There's a beautiful bar. Great staff, like every place else down here at the world famous Sports Bar and Grill. But you can sit down. You can take a breather, have a drink. You know, there's sometimes they rent that place out for like parties. Usually during football season, it used to be the Eagles Nest, and you'd have a plethora, Leo word, definitely a Leo word, of Eagles fans up there. And of course, Peter Blake and I were doing the Buccaneer game day shows here. So, I had to purposely walk up there through the Philadelphia party to get to the restrooms. Nice restrooms in the back there, too. You didn't hear it from me, but they may be the VIP restrooms on the spot. But then you also have a whole line of restrooms out here next to Ferg's backyard. But I always had to walk through there. And I give the Eagles fans credit. They never gave me any grief. Of course, they were a little better at the time, and we were still struggling, hadn't yet found our Tom Brady / COVID / the team that we put together, still trying to figure out that Jameis Winston experiment. But they were always pretty kind to me. And that's what you get down here at the Ferg. You'll have competition. You'll have, every time there's a big sporting event, you'll get your fans from different, whether it's March Madness or hockey playoffs now, or basketball, or coming up on the baseball for sure. But you get the fans down here, and there'll be some fun bantering and have some good times. But by the end of the day, there's two things usually happen. One, everyone ends up drinking together, having a great time, win or lose for their team. Or two, some of the people that may have been worse sports, maybe they left when their team lost, so they're not here anyway. So it's a great place to be down at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. Tim says 10 bill for the Dolphins. Wait a minute, 10 bill for the Dolphins. Tim, I'm sure it's something I said, but let me work back to that, or you can remind me. Mike Stover says Steve Young and Bo Jackson come to mind. I'll tell you what. So Steve Young's here in 85, right? Remember, he already went and lit up the LA Express. We knew Steve Young was a gamer coming out at BYU. Left-handed, sure, kind of strange. More of a running back, but a tough son of a gun. And let's be honest, nothing did Steve Young more better. Nothing did Steve Young's career better than spending 5 years behind Joe Montana under Coach Bill Walsh out there in the 49ers. But man, when you go back, and if Steve Young stays here, if we had a half a competent offense, we bring in Bo Jackson, because maybe Hugh Culverhouse didn't fly him down on the jet. He didn't lose his last year of eligibility at Auburn. Bo Jackson was still going to play 2 leagues. And the part is, these days, you still see players. You still talk about a Kyler Murray. He'd like to play, or a Russell Wilson, and, great they want to do. And you're talking about these days with the contracts, it's like, no. But back then, even they were saying there was no way Hugh Culverhouse was going to let Bo Jackson play both sports. Probably of the 28 teams at the time, probably of the 28, most of them weren't going to. But that's why when the Oakland Raiders, Al Davis and them, they pick up the rights to him. Or no, actually it was the Kansas City. No, it was the Royals. But when they pick up the rights in next year's draft, they said, look, Bo, you can play both sports. We're just happy to have you. He ends up hurting his hip on a tackle in the NFL, but he's going year round. It was a terrible injury. Cut his career short, but man, it was still nothing more exciting to see him, or even playing Bo Jackson on a Nintendo or Tecmo Bowl, because man, all he had to do was hand him the football and he would just go. But yeah, Mike, if you had Steve Young and Bo Jackson with the defense that John McKay had already been putting into then, but by 84, John McKay's out, 85. So, yeah, good stuff. Don Pryor says, remember years ago they had a mini golf on the old pier? Yeah, they had that little mini golf, Don. I mean, people, because even by our time, it was like already it was like concrete things, and like unlike some of the golf or the Pirates Coves and stuff. But yeah, they had that down there, and that was kind of a destination too. Love it, Don. Good to see you, and you're good to see a friend here on a Sunday morning. Corey King Brown says, go Orlando Magic. You like the Magic, right? Game 7. In Cleveland, and so far it's been the home team's game every time, but that only makes it even more the better, even more the much, even better or sweeter, closer to the bone, sweeter to me, even sweeter to see those Magic go into Cleveland today, get that Game 7, advance to the next round of the NBA playoffs, and then then I got a reason to watch a little bit more, although I was watching the Knicks. They locked it down. They're in the next series, but that's just because I remember Patrick Ewing, and I remember John Starks and Barkley. I mean, just the teams that they had. Of course, back then basketball was a little different. Man, I start to sound like an old man, aren't I? Etienne comes in here. What up, Ray? What's up, my friend? Good to see you. I'm getting somebody OGs in here, and I love it. Tim says $10 billion for the Dolphins. That's what it was, right? They offered Stephen Ross $10 billion for the Dolphins. Think about $1 billion, and I always work it back. Because let me take you guys and let me get a sip of this monster first. Because this always gets me. Hugh Culverhouse passes away. The team passes to a three-person trust, and they were keeping the team for Gay and Joy Culverhouse and Gay and Hugh Jr. And they were, working for him. Never felt like they weren't doing. But you had Pete Angelos, and you had plethora, again, Leo word again, of other places that were like, you kidding me? There's only 28 NFL teams, and there's one that possibly is for sale. They struggled for so long in Tampa Bay. Their attendance was down for so long, and we all knew it was because the team was just put together so terribly. They tried. They started working it together. They brought Sam Weiss in here. You got Rich McKay making the decisions. Of course, in '95, you get Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks. You saw a big change. But before that, you take the mid to late '80s and Vinny Testaverde in '87, and even Trent Dilfer so that was a time when it was like Tampa Bay had made their case to have a professional sports team. Not just because this is paradise, which it is, and because we were always willing, even going back to the 60s when we were bringing in football preseason games to show that Tampa Bay could support professional sports. We had done enough, even with the crappiest and worst owners in the National Football League. Hugh Culverhouse wasn't anything as bad as Daniel Snyder when it came to the controversial things, the cheerleaders, the harassment, the things that were swept under the rug. Of course, all of sports and politics are different these days. But Hugh Culverhouse was the worst. He was the savior that had the money, stepped up and purchased and brought the team here, the tax attorney Hugh from Jacksonville. But he was the worst. He wanted to put the money away, and we still showed. But here he was. He passed on the three-team trust. There was a lot of suitors at the door, and Bucs fans were sad. And in '95, I thought I went to that. That was the last game. I thought there was a good possibility that last game that year we were playing, the last game of the season was at home against the Green Bay Packers. And over there tailgating, had my season tickets. And after the game, some people jumped the wall there at Tampa Stadium because, again, we really didn't know. It was 50-50, maybe 45-55. I thought they were going to stay. I thought it was a done deal that they would stay here. Why wouldn't you want a team here? But there was a very real chance they weren't going to be here. And in fact, after the game, we met a bunch of Green Bay Packer fans. It was the latest I'd ever stayed there after a game. We stayed there till almost 10 o'clock that night. The Tampa police had to come through and kick us all out. We were tailgating under the sequoias on the way out to there. And they had given me vials of grass because Packers fans had jumped a fence or jumped a wall in the north end zone and grabbed pieces of grass and put them in the vials. I still have it. And that was the piece of the field because they were Packers fans were almost as sure as Bucs fans were that there was a chance they'd never get to see their hallowed Green Bay Packers play again here at the Big Sombrero. And they had some grass. They shared it with me, had a great time. Of course, we ended up keeping the team. It's 2024, and we have one of the best teams in the National Football Conference, I think, in the entire National Football League, based on what Jason Light's doing, the dogs we have here, the way this team is ran from the Glazers on down. But, man, did they put Malcolm Glazier on a skewer. $195 million this guy pays. Trailer park landlord, watchmaker, self-made millionaire, good people, doesn't know a lick about professional sports, and he paid $195 million in '95. 05, 15, 25. So 29 years later, $195 million, and somebody offers Stephen Ross $10 billion for those Miami Dolphins. I think that may have been just let's just throw it on out there, and maybe if Stephen Ross would have said yes to it, maybe they would have brought it back. That's a lot of simoleons. Fish term. But yeah, thanks, Tim. I didn't know what that was, but now I remember. Tim also says someone offered $10 million. I did. So Corey thinks that the Orlando Magic could be NBA final contender. Let's see it. I want to see it. Forgot how long it's been since Shaquille O'Neal. Remember when they got the Magic get Shaquille O'Neal, and the very next year, Pat Williams gets to in the lottery gets the first pick again, and we get Penny Hardaway, and you're like, could a team ever get more lucky? Yeah, I'd like to see him get to the finals. That would get my interest definitely peaked back up there for basketball, Corey. So wish the Magic luck there in Game 7 again there against the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland today. And of course, again, happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody. Corey says Tampa Bay Buccaneers Raymond James Stadium expires in 2028. Still no new deal done or new stadium talk. Yeah, Corey, because we're talking about it's just 4 years away, right? And a lot can happen in 4 years, but we've seen the improvements they've made to the stadium over there. And I mean, there comes a time when a structure just is not like where FedEx Field, where the Commanders are currently playing. There's stadiums in this league that are just dangerous. Raymond James is nowhere close to dangerous. The team, the city of Tampa Sports Authority, they've done a really great job of taking care of that stadium. You got to believe, though, you're going to have to give your Buccaneers, you're going to have to give them a new stadium without a doubt. I don't think we're on the same. It's not like it was here with the Tropicana Field or the stadium across the street here for the Rays, where we had a hard, because remember 2027 is the deadline, and as we've gotten, because that's, for me, I think a lot of people were like, okay, there's a lot of talk that the Rays are leaving. They're going to go. They play in a concrete labyrinth over here. New Hope Missionary Baptist Church going by here, finding a little bit of fellowship on a Sunday. More power to them. They're going to leave here, and for me, again, it was always the fact that back in '85, the city of St. Petersburg, they put it into writing that whoever owned a team in 2027. So obviously, Stu Sternberg, they needed to see things start happening, because we're 3 years out now from 2027, under 3, and or as far as the baseball season starts, and they needed to start seeing the city of St. Petersburg step up. And of course, we get with the Hayes Group, we get the plans made for the new stadium and all the development, and the we're going to do I don't want to say homage, but we're going to actually make sure it's understood as the gas plant district, and putting the historical value on that stretch of 88 acres across the street behind me there, and what it means. And that goes back again to the original people who lived there, the original tenants of the gas plant district, people who grew up there, people who were born there. T.C. Carter, my favorite Pinellas County High School referee and or basketball ref, and also clock keeper for football. And of course, his son Tom Carter, Notre Dame player, played down here at Lakewood with William Barr Nunn, who went to FSU. Of course, Tom went to Notre Dame, first round pick of the Washington Redskins back in the day. T.C. Carter, born actually at a house there in the gas plant district to a midwife. And I'll go ahead and I'll show this out there since I'm going to finish up this show. He goes back to a time here in the gas plant district, which was all at 88 acres behind me. And he comes from a time, and he wasn't complaining to me, because I started interviewing Mr. T.C. Carter, and I'm going to have him on a couple, Ray, because I want to talk about, because I always say, to understand where you're going, you got to remember where you came from, right? Great thing today. It's not just history about moving forward. History is also you studying the past. And that's that movie, The Holdovers, with Paul Giamatti. Great movie. I watched it again for the second time. Love to always, you could tell a lot by where you're going by remembering where you came from. Mr. T.C. Carter comes from a time here in the gas plant district, born and raised here in St. Petersburg. He remembers running down barefoot, because that's what they used to do, run on kids in there, but run down barefoot to Dock Webb City. He remembers a time when the African-American residents that lived all around here weren't even allowed down on the waterfront, right? Weren't even allowed. It was the way it was structured. No, those green benches down Central weren't necessarily for everybody, and they weren't, but that's a time, and that's a time and a place. But that's part of what's going on behind us here as we build that. So getting that baseball stadium built to keep the Rays here, important nonetheless. Redevelopment of St. Petersburg, even more so important. But the number one importance, as far as for me, is that entire redevelopment of Tropicana Field there, or the gas plant district, is to make sure we do that, and we go back with our eyes and our hearts, remembering the gas plant district, incorporating that into this becoming the best city in West Central Florida as St. Petersburg blows up, as the USF Bayboro campus and all, remembering the residents we moved out of there in '84 when they built that stadium to bring the Rays here originally. We promised them that everything was going to happen here on 16th, going down. And, you had years there where over on 22nd, the Deuces, you couldn't even get a Publix to open. There weren't even businesses built in it. And now it's understand this, as we continue to develop over here and make this a 25, 30-year development with a new stadium for the Rays, we're also going to remember the past and the history and remember where we came from, so we can always have an eye on where we're going. That's one of the most exciting things about the entire stadium getting built across the street there. Besides keeping our Rays here, besides keeping Tampa Bay a championship town. So yeah, I thank you, Corey. You're 100% right about that. The stadium expiring in 2028. I got to do a shout out to FootageBound.com, FootageBound Wedding Videography. There's so many people out there that are talented. They understand a camera. Maybe they do weddings at one specific location, so they know that, oh, if the wedding happens at 5 o'clock as the sun is getting ready to set, I want to be there and up because I have this beautiful shot of the glow of the sun behind the bride and the groom as they get their first kiss as husband and wife. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of good professionals that understand the importance of using lighting and using shots to. But what you get with FootageBound, not only do you get the #1 people for staging, because they're real professionals, they're real actors, they're people that actually studied stagecraft and studied videography. Of course, FootageBound owner Kathleen won the Icon Award down there at the Performing Arts Center there at Gibbs because of her videography skills. So they get the film and they miss nothing day of the wedding. The groom's putting on his cufflinks, the bride's getting her veil on, the meet and greet. Sometimes you do a meet and greet with the bride and the groom. They'll meet before the wedding. It's the first time the groom's seen the wife. It's called an expo, not an expose, but it's called so they'll be behind a door and they see each other. You capture that. Sometimes the groom is standing there on the altar, and the first time he sees his beautiful bride is when she walks through the door, around the corner, or into the church or structure to which they're getting married, and you get that tear on the eye. FootageBound covers all that, which is the most awesomeness. You won't miss anything. But the real magic starts when they start editing that video, and it comes down and they cut it up and it seamlessly transfers. It goes from the meeting to the wedding to the toasts, to the first dances, all the way to where the bride and the groom leave, and even what happens after they've left, because it's all about that day for the bride and the groom and the family. And that's what you get with FootageBound.com. FootageBound Video Productions. Go to FootageBound, check out their work, and most importantly, if you know somebody, friend, relative, daughter, mom, son, dad, anybody, even just a friend of a friend who has someone doing a destination wedding here, put the most important day of their lives into the hands of the professionals, and the hands of the professionals that you want it in, or at FootageBound. FootageBound.com. Check them out. It doesn't cost anything to call them and inquire about prices. Psst, it's going to be the best prices around, because FootageBound, they love what they do. It's not just a job, but for them, it's a lifestyle. FootageBound.com. Check them out. I had to do a shout out because I always said I wouldn't sell something I don't believe in, but man, do I believe in it. I believe in FootageBound. Oh, Corey right here. I love this. Corey, I appreciate you. Corey says, congratulations, Kevin Cash, 755, win over Joe Madden, passes Joe Madden. And when Kevin first takes over, Joe Madden first leaves and he goes to Chicago, and we're like, oh, here's Kevin Cash, former catcher, which I love. You see a lot of that these days, a lot of catchers, because the catcher is, the coach on the field. Everything happens in front. The catcher sees everything. Catcher talks to the coaches in the dugout. Catcher relays to the pitcher. Catcher sees the fielders. Catcher understands the game. Doesn't mean there's other players that don't, but yeah, catcher does, and that's what Kevin Cash was. I love his story. It goes back when Kevin Cash was catching. He was part of the battery there in Boston, and Peter, the baseball guy. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting now. And he would, every time he did a game there in Boston, they used to meet at home plate, 3 hours for the game, and it was a group of 4 or 5. It was three Red Sox players, their coach, and then Peter Gammons, and they were called the Breakfast Crew, right? And Kevin Cash was part of the Breakfast Crew, and what they were a group of players who got together and they would just talk baseball, strategies, things that are happening, changes to the game, and it was just, for them, it was a passion. They would literally meet home plate 3 hours for the game before they even did batting practice. Peter Gammons and the crew, and Kevin Cash was one of them. They would talk strategy. Kevin Cash, former Florida State Seminole. That's what you got when you came in here. At first, when he's having the success he's having, we're like, oh, he's just, it's just a Ray. It's just analytics. It's just the way they run this team. They had the best farm system in place, and they were running the team consistently with an eye on the future, which is what a futures person is when Stu Sternberg. But it was Kevin Cash making the right calls. Even if analytics were telling him what he should do, Kevin Cash was treating the players with respect, putting the right team together, and keeping the composure in the locker room, in the clubhouse. And that's what Kevin Cash has done. And now, as he's passed Joe Madden, I'll be honest with you. When Joe Madden first got away from here, I didn't suddenly lose hope in the Rays, but I was like, it's going to be a long time before we see a manager of the ilk of Joe Madden. And it just so happens the Rays had hired a manager who passed Joe Madden is still the coolest cat. He could come down here tomorrow and I'd sit with him. We'd bust a bottle of rosé or something over here, and we'd get the sifters out. And he's a sommelier as far as I'm concerned. What I know about wine, I'd still sit and I'd be honored to be a guest or just be having a conversation with Joe Madden. But Kevin Cash came right in here, assumed the role, and now he's passed it for the all-time. And I'll say this now. It's going to be a hard time the next time we're looking for a manager, a few managers down the road. I'd like to think that Tampa Bay is lucky enough to find another Kevin Cash, to follow another Joe Madden. But at the end of the day, two class acts back to back. And, there's a lot of teams that have had that luck. I can't go through maybe the Yankees between Billy Martin firings or, good solid clubhouse type of managers. But we've been pretty fortunate. And Corey, I'm glad you pointed out 755 passes Joe Madden and going for that. Just go sweep. There's going to be some brooms over here today. Bring the brooms over. Let's get the sweep of these New York Mets and keep the ball rolling. And it's not that I don't want to see the Rays. Oh, I'm in the shade now. It's not that I don't want to see I should have did this shot in the first place. But yeah, behind me is Tropicana Field. Of course, I'm in the backyard, Ferg's backyard here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. Just buzzing down here. I see gentlemen over here stocking all the bars outside here. There's Coach running around, just always busy. That's one of the reasons why the experience here at Ferg's, you could just take this huge area with all the things going on, all the televisions, everything, the attention to detail that the entire staff does down here at Ferg's. But the fact that you've got Coach down here at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning, making sure everything's turned on, making sure everything's started, making sure everything's just right. That's what you get when you come down here. That's the handshake you get with the Fergs, with the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. Not just because we're 20 feet from the Tropicana Field where the Rays are going for that sweep over the Mets today. Not just because this is the most iconic sports bar in all of Florida. There may be one of them down in Miami. There may be a little corner pub somewhere up in Jacksonville. I doubt it, Jacksonville. Or way over there on the other side by the Panhandle, someplace where Seminole fans go and they have a... No, you're talking about West Central Florida and all points out from here, the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, without a doubt. As recognized by Creative Loafing, the best of the Bay. I can already smell the fryers going. I can smell the chicken wings going to be going on. I'm probably going to get 10 of those. 10 of those garlic. What is Tristan like? He loves those garlic and whatever. But yeah, loving it. Because Corey King, I'm trying to keep my keyboard covered here. Corey says, K-Cash, love it. Yes. Corey also says, Kevin Cash, better than Joe Madden's Rays, makes playoffs 5 straight years. Rad, she did not. Corey, there you go right there. 5 straight years. And that's one of the things I think. I'm glad that we haven't seen too many mass defections or people have been getting too crazy. We kind of get quiet, which is a little bit what Tampa Bay is. We're a little bit pacifist maybe. Unless we're on a campus at USF and we're protesting. I'm not making light of that. I did think I did, but I didn't mean to. But Tampa Bay, it's hard. You go back to 2020, what's the NBA bubble going to look like? Doesn't matter to us. We don't have a team. Tom Brady, they're over at Berkeley Prep, and Mayor Castor's throwing Tom out of the park because he's overrunning sprints because he's just getting ready to win championships. The Rays on a shortened season, they go and they make it to the 2020 World Series against those Dodgers. It wasn't just a one-year wonder. Tampa Bay has been a solid 4 years. But this year, the rest of the American League East got a little good. And National League's looking great. But you still have a core of players with this Rays team, and we knew going in that these pitchers, a Jeffrey Springs, a Drew Rasmussen, we knew that these guys were going to get healthy as we go along, and bringing Taj back. We kind of knew it was going to be a minute, so we were like, okay, if Rosarina can just hit 20 home runs again, and we can just go, score more runs in the first 20 games than we have all year. Didn't happen that way. Starting to wake up a little bit now. The team is held together. Part, again, what Kevin Cash does as a manager of this team. But now the pieces are still in place. And these Mets were pretty hot. They're still the Mets, right? Are they great? Are they going to suck? We don't know day to day. But the Mets were looking pretty good so far in 2024. The Rays have settled them down here as we look to get this sweep and continue it moving forward. But I'm glad that at least we've all known here at Tampa Bay, we're all smart enough to know you're not going to win them all, but we're still pretty darn good. And we had a pretty good draft, and we're doing all right. The Lightning, Stamkos, let's keep him. What are these draft picks going to look like? Stay tuned for the first rookie minicamp. But so far, really looking good, the pieces we brought in here. But you're not going to win them all, right? Because if you were guaranteed to win them all, then you'd be New England after so long when Brady and the Patriots were winning them year. And they got to a point now where, like Tom Brady and the crew said, it wasn't in that dynasty, but they were saying coming out of it that every year the Patriots, Boston fans were like, all right, we've won the AFC East. That's for sure. We got the AFC, right? So who are we going to face in the Super Bowl? And let's get that 6th or 7th or 8th ring. And, you want your expectations to be there as a sports fan, but you also want to have your realism. You want to realize that the reason why it feels so great to win a game, a series, a championship, a banner, an NFC South for a 4th consecutive year, the reason why those feel so good is because we've been to where it feels so bad and you're not getting there, or you're just a little short, or you have Hugh Culverhouse as an owner. But you understand, kind of goes back to the whole enjoying or understanding where we're going is to remember where we came from. And even though Tampa Bay is great, you can't win them all. All you can ask for is to have a competitive team that has a shot every year. And now we have that, right? We have that in spades here in Tampa Bay. But we also have some pretty good dogs. Look at the John Cooper, Todd Bowles, Kevin Cash. We've also got pretty good leadership, pretty good ownership teams, and we got a pretty good area to live in. So we've got that going for us. So expect to win every time. Always be excited about winning, but remember, I'm not going to be all the time. Take it in stride and be ready for the good stuff. Sometimes it's bad, but remember, we get through the bad, it makes us enjoy the good even more. So I appreciate that. Yeah, 100%, Corey. Tim Haynes says, hell yeah, go Rays. Yeah, let's get that sweep. And again, the reason why I had this Mets, I coached a traveling softball team, and the girls were Mets. So we had that. I keep it around. It's a joke. Just went on the ground, so I'll make sure to get rid of the hat. But yeah, go for that sweep over those Mets today and get the success rolling in 2024. Corey says, I want Orlando Magic NBA Final Banner 1 champions. Corey, I'm with you, man. I am going to watch the game at 1 o'clock today. I want to see the Magic get Game 7 in Cleveland. And since the home team has won all 6 games up till today, the Magic will have to overcome with last year's Player of the Year, but get that victory there in Cleveland and move to the next. If they can go into Cleveland today, and I 100% believe they will because the games have all been pretty close, go in there and get that Game 7 victory, then I think the Magic are posed to continue to have success because the rest of the East, and then the West, I mean, there's a lot of competition out there. Makes me wonder about, speaking about the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James. LeBron goes to the Lakers, and they win the title there when they were over in the Disney bubble there in 2020, and they've had some success. And LeBron has continued his storied career, but and he knew when he was going out to the Western Conference with the NBA that there were some dogs out there. Your Clippers, or your Golden State Warriors, your Lakers, which he went to. And so that's why with the Knicks improving this year, and of course with the Magic looking good, and Cleveland, where'd they come from? And even the Heat were in there for a minute. But the East has gotten better. But yeah, the Magic get Game 7 today in Cleveland. I think 100%, Corey, that they have a shot to go far in these NBA playoffs in 2024. And I'll be there with you, brother, celebrating every all step of the way. Corey says Tampa Bay Buccaneers schedule will come out, I hope, Sunday night football game. Okay, so let's talk about that. I have gone over an hour. I'm going to cut it down so I can get ready to go. We're going to go over here and watch the Rays sweep the Mets. Last year they cut it back, right? We still had some games. Of course, when Tom was quarterback, we had what? We had 15 Monday Night Football games. We had 72 Thursday and Sunday night combinations, and it was always so this year. Let's just think about this because Corey, you bring it up. And Corey, you always do this. You always bring up a great question by making a great statement. I got the U-Haul truck right here. There's the U-Haul. Was that there an entire shot? I hope you guys had a chance to see the sun run around behind me. Based on last year's playoffs, okay, forget that. Let's just think about the games that should be Monday night or Thursday night or prime time. Let's call it prime time games, even if it's the 4 o'clock game of the week. The Eagles, right? The Eagles-Bucks rematch. You got the Bucks playing the 49ers, which is not as sexy because it was San Mateo and Tom as a kid with the Dwight Clark in the catch and the Montana jersey trick-or-treating, but now it's Baker Mayfield, the dog. I still think that's a great matchup. Even so you got the Baltimore Ravens. What if that's your first? I don't know what the Ravens schedule looks like, but what if the Ravens open up here at Raymond James, because we're playing them at home. That's our 17th game. No, the Ravens aren't the team, but that's one of our AFC games. And then we're on the road at Detroit. That Detroit game, rematch of last year's divisional conference finals, or divisional before they went out. Detroit game, Eagles game. If the Bucks are going to have one division, and I'll ask you guys and girls this, I see y'all watching. If the Bucks are going to have one divisional game that's nationally televised, maybe it's a game of the week, although that tends to be the biggie. Usually it's Troy Aikman and it's a Cowboy game. Or if the Bucks were going to, if I told you the Bucks were going to have one NFC South game that was going to be a Thursday night game, because Thursday night, man, by association, Thursday always gets kind of screwed. So the Amazon game, the prime game of the week was going to be the Bucks versus one of their divisional opponents. Which one's it going to be? Who do y'all think? Corey says I hope they have a Sunday night football game. The Bucks will have 2 Monday night games this year, a Sunday night game this year, and a Thursday night game. So the Bucks will have 4 primetime, nationally televised games. And I'm not even counting the game of the week. I think the Bucks, because one of those Monday night games, or not both of them, will be because of the team the Bucks are playing against, right? Because remember, as the Bucks backed into their 3rd consecutive NFC South championship, which is bull crap, bull spit, Steve Dumick, shout out my guy, because they still had to win the games they had to win. They still won the ones they had to, and they still dominated in the playoffs. But they're playing a first-place schedule. And so if you take the first-place teams and the AFC opponents for the Bucks this year, those alone give me at least 3, if not 4, primetime games. But I think that the Bucks-Eagles game has to be a prime time. It has to be a Monday night game, unless the Eagles already have too many Monday night games, because the world wants to see if they continue to implode with Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and Devin White, which is weird. But yeah, I say 2 Mondays, a Thursday, and a Sunday. I'm going to stick with that. I'll throw that. I'll timestamp that right now. The schedules will come out this week. They don't always announce all of the prime times, but I think that we'll have 2 Mondays, a Sunday, and a Thursday. Corey Brown says, Baker Mayfield versus Kirk Cousins night. Oh, man. Gotta be here. Because I go back to last year with week 1 in Minnesota, where we rocked Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, which really I was surprised that Kirk Cousins took the $75 million or $150 guaranteed, even though the rumor was his wife had family and happy wife, happy life, and he's going to take the family. And Kurt's the Target sweater dad guy. So from that standpoint, it wasn't surprising, but there was part of me that would have thought that Kurt would have went back and looked at that week 1 film from last year versus the Bucs there in Minnesota and went, I really don't want to face that defense twice a year. Although, you don't get to be a gamer like Kirk Cousins if you're not like that. I think Kurt's going to have success. I'm just wondering if the Baker versus Kirk Cousins, if that was going to be like a Sunday night game, is it better there in Megatron's butthole, which is the, Mercedes-Benz Dome or whatever they're calling that stadium there in Georgia, or out here on the the beautiful green grass of Raymond James Stadium with the pirate ship and the open night, and probably you're in November, but it's in the mid 60s, low 70s. You got a beautiful night. I think that's a home game, but yeah, that's probably going to be a good matchup, Corey, for sure. Josu says, Josu Torres, good to see you, Josu. Let's go Magic Game 7, 100%. I should have hashtagged the Magic, because that was one of the things. I'm looking at sports for today. Had the great Kentucky Derby yesterday. Had some great races yesterday. Had the great Rays game with the second victory over the Mets last night. But I'm looking at this 1 o'clock, this game 7. It's only game 7 today. This game 7 between the Magic at Cleveland, and of course, again, the narrative being the home games won all the games. The Magic they're gonna have to pull up their bootstraps, and they have to go to Cleveland and win a game on the road, and they 100% should do that. So Josie, I'm 100% for that. And I tell you what, Magic win game 7 today. I'm locked and loaded for the rest of these playoffs. And you guys and girls know that I've never been shy to tell you, it's not that I don't love basketball, right? Not that I don't remember Charles Barkley and Dennis Rodman and Vinnie Microwave Johnson for the Detroit Pistons making threes, or Bill Laimbeer starting. Not that I mean, that's how far I go back, but not that I don't also remember coming up with Magic and Penny Hardaway and Nick Anthony and the teams that they had over there. I like basketball, but this time of year, there's so much going on. I just get down with March Madness. The Magic usually haven't been in the playoffs, so I start to look at baseball, which takes off the 1st of April. It's really going strong in mid-March. And, of course, the Lightning or hockey's finishing up, which once the Lightning are out, I'll watch, but there's no bated breath. There's no real interest here. But so I always step back from basketball, and it's not that it's because I'm all preparing for the rookie OTAs and the camps. We're getting ready. I'm talking with my guy JC Allen from Sports Illustrated, locking it down. I love the fact, JC, that they used your question talking about the dirtbag bunch, talking about with Duke Blue Devils and Graham Barton, our first round pick. And I love the fact that JC that they used your question. I just want to throw that out there right now. I know how hard you've worked. You and I have been doing it since the minute you came down here to Florida, and I've watched you just take off, not only with the beautiful family, and I love what you guys got going on there, but all the hard work you've done to get where you are, and I know where you're continuing to go, or where you should be going, and that is the best coverage of the Buccaneers, not just for Sports Illustrated and that, which is fantastic, but for all of Tampa Bay. I love the fact that they used your question with Graham, and he gets into the fact talking about the dirtbags, talking about the Duke Blue Devils. I love that Graham actually says because they're vacuums and what did we suck, and I love that because you think about an offensive line and you talk about dirtbags and you just love that narrative. Even though he's the cleanest cut, sharpest Eddie Haskell slash Beaver Leave the Beaver kind of guy. But man, you've seen him mixed up. I've seen his game tape. He gets in there. He gets nasty. I love that they used that question, JC, so that was awesome. And Corey finishes up this with Orlando Magic have got to get a 10-point lead, and then the Cavs have, and then think Orlando Magic win. They have great defense and can score. They have a great defense. They can score. They get that 10-point lead. You just don't want to see him get like the 10-point lead like you had the other night with what's the series I was watching with the Knicks, right? And the Knicks are playing, and like they had that lead, and then they brought it back, and then they go to a game 6. The Knicks end up winning it in game 6. Excuse me, that was so rude. But get the 10-point lead, just as long as it's not too early. Second quarter, 10-point lead, Corey, in basketball these days, 10-point lead mid through the fourth quarter, then they can lock it down with that defense, and they still have those scores. I think the Magic get that victory, 100%. Thanks, guys and girl. Thanks all everybody for the comments today. I'll finish it off with saying again, I think usually I'm way off, but I throw it out there. Just throw it on there if you're right. 2 Monday Night Football games, 1 Thursday night, 1 Sunday night. Mostly, you're going to look at it, and Bucs fans are going to say it's because we still have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Baker Mayfield and this defense and what we're doing, and are going for the 4th consecutive NFC South championship. Totally deserved because of the team that Buccaneers and Tampa Bay puts on the field year in and year out. But they're playing that first place schedule, and they got a pretty good AFC. That's the AFC South. Ravens. No, we're not playing the Steelers. We played the AFC South last year. Is it the AFC North? No, AFC Central. I wish I knew. I just did the schedule, and I'm drawing a blank now. But I think we get 2 Mondays, a Thursday, and a Sunday just based on the fact that we're playing a first-place schedule, and we deserve to be there. Hopefully it's more. Stand by. The schedule comes out this week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I just hope you're going to have a great time today. Come down to the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. Enjoy some of the most delicious chicken wings, the burgers, anything you want. You'll be out here in Ferg's backyard with the big Jumbotron. There's something so... to me, it's so you'll have the sun going down behind the stage. You had the Pirate Flag Band on stage down here this weekend. It was huge this week. You're out here, you're watching the Rays on the big screen, and you got the Rays across the street there in Tropicana Field. I'll be honest, more than once I've come down here with Rays tickets to go to a game, and I get here to Ferg's and I start watching. They got all the sports on, and we're having so much fun. Next thing you know, it's the second, third inning. I do finally cross underneath First Avenue South in the tunnel, heading over to the stadium and get in there. But there's been times where you're down here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, and I got tickets in the pocket, but this is the place to be. I just love being here. Then we get over there. Come down, enjoy it. Hopefully the Rays get that third win today, that sweep of the Metropolitans and New York Mets. Hopefully those Orlando Magic get Game 7, get that victory against the Cleveland Cavaliers to get to the next round of the playoffs. Hopefully we'll get the schedule this week and we figure it all out and how it's going to happen in 2024. That's exciting. And really, that's about it. I want to thank you all for joining me. Keep it locked and loaded here on the Sports Web. Got you covered all week. You got Peter and JP on Wednesdays locking it down. You got me coming back on here again. Stay tuned for that second iteration, the Cup of Ray After Dark with the interviews. Got a lot of stuff lined up there. Hope you all have a great day. Sunday vibes. Just whenever I do Sunday vibes, it's just chill. Hope you find your beach. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you guys next time on Cup of Ray. And you guys know how I end every one of these. Everyone needs to know someone cares today. I'm about to go to let her know that I do. Everyone needs to know today. Why don't you be the one that lets them know? Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you on the next Cup of Ray.